In just 56 seconds, 88447 missing Epstein documents surfaced, while Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel's coordinated denials crumbled before 56 million viewers. Senator Durbin didn't hesitate. He slammed classified federal evidence onto the witness table. Cameras captured every trembling hand. The Senate chamber fell silent like a tomb. What did Durbin reveal that made America's two most powerful law enforcement officials panic and contradict themselves live on national television? June 3rd, 2025, 10:11, 28 a.m., room 116 of the Hart Senate Office Building, the air thick with the weight of America's most protected conspiracy. Finally facing congressional daylight, Attorney General Pam Bondi walked in like a prosecutor who had perfected the art of institutional denial, charcoal laser tailored to Project Federal Authority DOJ, pin-catching the lights that would soon illuminate her document destruction. Beside her sat the FBI Director Kash Patel, midnight blue suit projecting investigative credibility. FBI badge polished to reflect the cameras that would soon document their coordinated cover-up. Behind them followed 8 DOJ legal specialists and 6 FBI document managers, their briefcase containing carefully crafted explanations that would prove catastrophically inadequate against documented evidence of systematic file destruction. Together, Bonsai and Patel represented the complete federal law enforcement apparatus that had protected Jeffrey Epstein's network through coordinated document suppression across the mahogany battlefield. Sat Senator Dick Durbin, looking like a federal prosecutor who had spent months reconstructing destroyed evidence through forensic analysis. His eyes burned with the focused intensity of someone who had obtained recovery records so explosive they would reshape America's understanding of government document destruction. In front of him lay 14 encrypted drives marked with red classified stamps, each containing evidence that would soon turn both officials' careers to ash. The Senate Judiciary Committee chamber buzzed with unprecedented tension. Investigative reporters from every major network filled available seats, their cameras trained like artillery on the three figures about to engage in a battle that would expose decades of coordinated federal evidence destruction. C-SPAN's live feed carried the confrontation to millions of Americans who sensed they were about to witness the most significant government accountability moment in modern history. At exactly 1:28 a.m., Chairman Durbin called the hearing to order with unusual gravity. The committee will now receive testimony regarding federal document retention policies and evidence preservation protocols related to high-profile criminal investigations. His voice carried procedural weight, but everyone understood this was about Jeffrey Epstein and the coordinated government destruction of evidence that could have prosecuted his entire network. Bondi opened with her prepared statement, voice steady with prosecutorial confidence that would soon prove disastrously misplaced. Senator Durbin, I appreciate the opportunity to address these unfounded allegations about DOJ document management. The Department of Justice, under my leadership, maintains the highest standards of evidence preservation and investigative integrity. Every case receives thorough documentation following proper federal protocols. Beside her, Patel nodded approvingly, projecting unified federal law enforcement commitment to transparency. The FBI similarly maintains comprehensive document retention protocols. All evidence is preserved according to federal guidelines, regardless of the individuals involved or external pressures. Their coordinated response was intended to project seamless cooperation between DOJ and FBI in maintaining investigative integrity. What they didn't realize was that Durbin had obtained evidence of their systematic coordination to destroy, rather than preserve critical evidence. Durbin let them finish his fingers, drumming silently on the encrypted drives containing evidence of their document destruction conspiracy. When both officials concluded with confident nods toward the committee, Durbin leaned forward with the intensity of a prosecutor who had reconstructed evidence they thought was permanently destroyed. Attorney General Bondi, Director Patel began his voice carrying the measured precision of someone who had forensically recovered destroyed files. You both mentioned evidence preservation and federal protocols. Let's examine those claims through recovered documents rather than prepared statements. He connected the first encrypted drive to his laptop with deliberate ceremony. Are you both familiar with Operation Document Phoenix, the classified FBI DOJ evidence destruction protocol initiated in August? Both officials' faces tightened almost imperceptibly. Classified evidence destruction protocols were dangerous territory that their joint briefing team had hoped to avoid through general discussions of routine document management and standard retention policies. Senator Bondi attempt. At first, I'm not familiar with any operation by that specific designation. The DOJ manages numerous classified protocols that involve complex legal considerations. Complex legal considerations. Durbin repeated, his voice rising with prosecutorial precision. Attorney General Director Patel. Let me show you how complex your considerations became. His laptop screen displayed internal communications that made several committee members lean forward in their seats. Operation Document Phoenix was a joint FBI-DOJ protocol to systematically destroy Jeffrey Epstein evidence before it could be analyzed or prosecuted. You both personally authorized the destruction of 47 classified documents. The chamber erupted in muted gasps. This wasn't speculation about routine document management. This was documented evidence of the Attorney General and FBI Director systematically destroying evidence in America's most significant criminal case. Senator Patel attempted falling back on practice. Deflection document management decisions involve complex security considerations that require coordination between federal agencies within established legal frameworks. Established legal frameworks, Durbin echoed with bitter precision. Director Attorney General. Let me show you what your legal framework accomplished. He activated another drive displaying forensic recovery records that made reporters frantically type updates. These are digital forensic analyses showing the systematic destruction of Epstein evidence between August 2019 and March 2025. You coordinated the deletion of client lists, financial records, victim testimonies, and photographic evidence. The destruction was so systematic it required joint FBI-DOJ authorization codes. The evidence was devastating. Both officials hadn't just destroyed evidence independently. They had coordinated a systematic evidence destruction operation that required both agencies' highest-level authorization to execute. Durbin continued. Specifically, Attorney General Bond authorized DOJ deletion protocols for 312 documents containing Jeffrey Epstein client identifications. Director Patel simultaneously authorized FBI destruction of 289 documents containing evidence of government official involvement. The deletions occurred within 48-hour windows using coordinated authorization codes that both of you personally provided. The systematic nature of their coordination was staggering. Bond and Patel hadn't just destroyed evidence. They had systematically coordinated the elimination of Jeffrey Epstein evidence using joint federal authority to ensure complete destruction of criminal prosecution materials. Both officials' faces went pale as they realized the scope of forensic evidence aligned against their coordination. The recovered data proved that their evidence destruction hadn't been administrative oversight. It had been systematic coordination between DOJ and FBI to protect Jeffrey Epstein's network. Senator Bonsai attempted, her voice betraying the first signs of panic. Any document management decisions are made within proper legal guidelines and involve complex considerations that cannot be fully understood outside their appropriate classified context. Classified context? Durbin repeated with prosecutorial contempt. Attorney General Director, let me provide some context. He opened another drive containing email communications that made the chamber fall completely silent. These are recovered emails between your offices coordinating Epstein evidence destruction. Quote from Bondi's August 15, 2019 message to Patel. Client protection requires complete file elimination. Political survival depends on total evidence. Burial Patel's response. Same day. FBI deletion protocols, ready joint authorization will ensure permanent destruction. The internal coordination emails were devastating. Both officials had explicitly coordinated systematic evidence destruction to protect Jeffrey Epstein's clients while acknowledging that their own political survival depended on burying criminal evidence. Attorney General Bondi Director Patel Durbin said, your own emails prove you coordinated systematic destruction of Jeffrey Epstein evidence while explicitly stating that your political survival required burying criminal evidence. How do you explain converting federal law enforcement into a criminal protection service? The email evidence was irrefutable. Both officials had explicitly coordinated evidence destruction while acknowledging that they were protecting criminals rather than prosecuting them to ensure their own political survival. But the coordination went far beyond email communication. Durbin announced connecting another drive that displayed a complex coordination timeline. Because we also have evidence of your joint meetings and synchronized decision-making, King. The screen showed meeting schedules, phone logs, and coordination records between DOJ and FBI leadership. Attorney General Director. This evidence shows 47 joint meetings between your offices specifically dedicated to Epstein evidence management. Every meeting was followed within 72 hours by systematic document destruction. The pattern is exact and undeniable. The meeting coordination proved that Bonsai and Patel had systematically met to plan evidence destruction rather than evidence preservation. Their coordination wasn't administrative cooperation, it was criminal conspiracy to obstruct justice. Through systematic evidence elimination, social media erupted as viewers realized the scope of the coordinated conspiracy. The Bondi Patel cover-up began trending alongside Epstein evidence destroyed in 84's documents. The story was exploding beyond the hearing room into a national demand for criminal prosecution that would reshape federal law enforcement forever. But perhaps most shocking, Durbin announced, displaying recovery records that made the chamber fall silent is what your destroyed evidence contained. The screen showed partial file reconstructions from forensic analysis. The 84-7 documents you destroyed contained client lists with 107 names, including current government officials, financial records showing $340 million in trafficking proceeds, and victim testimonies that could have prosecuted the entire Epstein network. You destroyed evidence that could have delivered justice to 100 of victims. The scope of destroyed evidence was staggering. Bondi and Patel hadn't just destroyed administrative files, they had eliminated evidence that could have prosecuted over 100 individuals involved in Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking network and delivered justice to 100 of victims. The forensic recovery shows the destroyed documents included Durbin, continued testimony from 89 victims identifying their abusers, financial records tracing $340 million in trafficking profits, client lists with 127 participants, including 3 current Supreme Court justices, flights of 2034 trips, and photographic evidence from 6 properties. You destroyed evidence that represented the most significant criminal prosecution opportunity in American history. The comprehensive destruction was breathtaking in its scope and criminality. Both officials had systematically destroyed evidence that could have prosecuted the largest trafficking network in history and delivered justice to 100 of victims. Director Patel. Attorney General Bondi Durbin pressed his voice, filling the chamber with righteous fury. You didn't just destroy evidence. You coordinated the elimination of justice for 100 of trafficking victims to protect 27 criminals, including Supreme Court justices. You converted federal law enforcement into a protection service for America's most dangerous predator. The moral dimension of their coordinated conspiracy was staggering. Their evidence destruction hadn't just protected criminals from prosecution. It had systematically eliminated justice for 100 of victims while protecting over 100 government officials involved in trafficking. Both officials stood simultaneously, their coordination evident even in their response to being exposed. Bondi attempted to speak first. Senator, these allegations mischaracterize complex interagency coordination decisions made under extraordinary circumstances that involved classified considerations. Patel immediately supported her deflection. The FEFB's coordination with DOJ represents standard interagency cooperation protocols designed to ensure proper evidence handling within appropriate legal frameworks. Their coordinated response confirmed their continued conspiracy even while being confronted with evidence of their crimes. Coordinated response. Durbin interrupted, connecting his final drive. Attorney General Director, let me show you what coordination really looks like. The screen displayed video evidence that made the entire chamber gasp in shock. This is security footage from a private resort showing both of you personally meeting with Jeffrey Epstein's financial managers in February 2025. You were coordinating ongoing protection while publicly denying knowledge of his network's operation. The video was crystal clear, both Pam Bondi and Kash Patel meeting together with two men identified as Jeffrey Epstein's financial coordinators at a luxury resort. The meeting lasted over 3 hours with documents exchanged and what appeared to be coordination of ongoing protection arrangements. The video was the final nail in both officials' coffins, visual evidence of the Attorney General and FBI Director jointly coordinating with Jeffrey Epstein's financial network while publicly denying knowledge of continuing operations. Attorney General Bonsai Director Patel Durbin said, his voice rising to fill the chamber with devastating finality, "You didn't just destroy evidence of past crimes. You're actively coordinating ongoing protection for Jeffrey Epstein's criminal network. You converted the entire federal justice system into a protection service for America's most dangerous criminals." The chamber sat in stunned silence as the full scope of coordinated conspiracy became clear. The Attorney General and FBI Director had systematically converted America's justice system into a protection service for criminals willing to ensure their political survival. As both officials gathered their materials with trembling hands, their careers destroyed, and their criminal liability established beyond question, Durbin delivered his final judgment. Attorney General Bondi, Director Patel, your coordinated resignations are meaningless. You will both face criminal charges for conspiracy to obstruct justice, systematic evidence destruction, and joint conspiracy to protect a criminal network. The evidence is overwhelming, the forensic documentation is complete, and the American people finally know the truth about their justice systems. Coordinated corruption. The weight of impending criminal prosecution was evident in both officials' defeated postures as they prepared to leave the chamber together. Their legal teams looked equally devastated, realizing that no legal strategy could overcome the documented evidence of systematic coordination to destroy evidence and protect criminals. As Bonsai and Patel fled the hearing room together, they left behind not just destroyed careers, but the collapse of public trust in federal law enforcement and prosecution. The evidence presented by Dick Durbin hadn't just exposed two corrupt officials. It had revealed systematic coordination between DOJ and FBI to protect America's most dangerous criminal network. That evening, as America processed the most explosive government conspiracy in history, Jeffrey Epstein's victims finally had hope for justice. The coordinated evidence destruction scheme had been exposed, the proof was public, and the officials who had systematically eliminated their chance for justice were finally facing accountability. The 56 seconds that ended both Pam Bondi and Kash Patel's careers marked the beginning of the largest federal conspiracy investigation in American history. An investigation that would finally deliver justice for Epstein's victims and restore integrity to America's justice system through the prosecution of their federal